Welcome to the first episode of the Skinnovation podcast with Doctors Zakia, Rahman, and James Pathoulas. Today we'll be talking exosomes, hair masks, and skin longevity. This episode was recorded at Stanford University's Redwood City campus. All views discussed are our own.
As dermatologists, every day we get asked about skincare trends.
Every day.
We actually love it.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is make information accessible to you. And we want to do it in a scientific way. We're going to bring science to have a seat at the table in our discussion.
So the agenda for today's show, first we're going to start with hot or not. Is it hot or is it not? We'll be doing this each time on a trending topic. And so we'll get to that shortly. That's our top of show. And then we'll do, Zach will do a deep dive. You can get started on hot or not. So what we're talking about today is basically there are these really trending exosome creams that have spicules. The idea, like we were talking about before, is that it would kind of disrupt the stratum corneum and deliver the exosome. But I have to ask you, what are exosomes hot or not?
I think they could be hot. But the way they're currently understood, I think it's an absolute not.
Okay.
So earlier we were talking about the skin barrier and the 500 Dalton rule and what gets in. And so I think of exosomes, I think like the best analogy that I can come up with is I think of them as an envelope, right? If you check your mail, you'll get it, or you'll check your email, right? It shows. And what matters more is what's inside the envelope. And I think that's where the science really needs to advance. Right now we think exosomes. And so essentially, exosomes are these like tiny little extracellular vesicles that have the same lipid bilayer. And so they can go inside cells, they can go inside and so you can apply them. But who cares if the envelope, right? When you get something in the mail, is it a bill or is it a check for $1 million?
Oh, yeah. And how can people, honestly, I don't know. How do people know? Like I know there's some crazy bills going out there. I mean, particularly in other parts of the world, but even here in the United States. So what do you think? Like, how do we judge the mail? Like,
yeah, I think for us, obviously in academic medicine, we always look at the peer-reviewed published literature. And I think one of the challenges is that you at home don't have access to this, right? It's all behind a paywall. And I think open source publication is important, but there are some very fascinating Nature publications about using these extracellular vesicles with mRNA to stimulate things like collagen 1 production in cells. But I think it's looking at the science and really asking, like, what's inside the envelope, and it's not just an exosome. What's inside of it?
Right, because that's like the letter, and I think that is the hard part. And it's interesting because the things that I've looked at have been like they're like our proprietary blend, they're like exosome blah 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 with proprietary ingredient. I'm like, well, what should be inside is in theory a molecule that will enable some cell signaling, right? But how, and if you're not doing clinical studies, how do you know? My fear is that you don't know. And then, like, worst case scenario, we're activating a pathway that we don't want to be, or we're having like more rapid cell division.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
I kind of think of when you mentioned proprietary, I thought of the cases of all of these people who did genetic testing and found out that they had 30 half siblings. And so, these fertility doctors who were giving their proprietary blend of sperm and including their own.
Oh,
yeah, you didn't know about this.
No,
but yeah, this has happened in many countries. And I know there are cases in Texas where
and
people found out
like through the
DNA testing.
Oh my gosh!
And of course, that's a problem because if you meet or date or end up mating with somebody who is a half sibling and you don't know. So yeah, I think we know in medicine informed consent is really important, and so. Not enough to just say proprietary blend. You have to say what it is.
And a lot of people, I mean, that's a family reunion you don't want to go to. Okay, well, I hope those people have a good class action lawsuit and a good lawyer. So,
and turned out it wasn't even illegal.
Oh,
it wasn't illegal until the law was passed. I mean, obviously,
it's catching up with
Exactly. And you think obviously clearly that would be unethical,
Right.
right? When we think
Right.
of the Hippocratic Oath and do no harm. But
Yeah.
certainly the fact that it wasn't illegal meant that a lot of them didn't have legal repercussions.
100%. That is
Yeah.
that is wild. Yeah. Okay.
No
Well,
proprietary blends.
no. Oh, you might have.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's see. So basically that is our hot take. So we're saying here's
And are you saying hot or not?
so here's what I want to get into. So I think that basically the idea is so exosomes I think have a lot of potential. Long way to go. The one exosome that really scares me, by the way, is one that will go from an unnamed company in Brazil that's taking umbilical cord blood from deer and using
What?
this is
like,
I know.
so they're finding deer
This was
like that basically had, or like they're impregnating
well,
deer.
I think they're deer on a farm.
Yeah, and so what they're doing. So I mean, it
Exactly. It is as bad as you have laid out. But anyway, so but I think that the undercurrent here, the sub story is people are desperate.
Yeah.
People want a solution, and I think that if you are like, okay, the umbilical cord blood of deer, that's what I need. I mean that you should see a board certified dermatologist before going there. But anything about it was actually the spicules. So the idea, so I think that the company was right in recognizing that because a lot of the exosome products, there's no drug delivery, like no enhancer of drug delivery, and they're way too big. They're over 500 kilodalton. So
you were saying the spicules, as in they are like needles, that puncture the top layer, the stratum corneum of the skin,
and what are the spicules to be discussed, but I think the idea of a technology of it's a novel idea, a cream that has some drug aided delivery to it. It's fascinating to me, and I think about some of our colleagues at Stanford, like Dr. Joyce Tang, are working on this for like stickers that you can put on kids for like lidocaine, things like that, for like microneedle assisted drug delivery on a very small scale, like spicules. So I think that this is definitely trending. So I think that it's for this hot or not, I'm going to say not for now.
Yeah.
But come back to us.
That's true.
Come back to us with some data.
Yeah.
And we sound like a venture capital firm. But seriously, that's hot or not, this deep dives. What do you want to talk about?
Oh yeah. It's like we could talk about skin longevity and why it matters.
And you've done a lot of work in this area.
Well, I'm fortunate to have done that. And you were talking about exosomes and saying people are desperate. Yeah. And one of the questions is why, right? Why are people seeking these treatments? And, we won't add a lot of politics to this, or maybe we will.
Maybe we, I mean,
right? If we have a place.
Right now we have 0 viewers at this point. Two. That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But if we look at the world population, essentially we're over 8 billion now, but the world population in 100 years quadrupled, and it turns out it's going to go to 10 billion before it starts to level back down if the demographic trends in terms of lower amount of birth continue. And so what's happened is, again, you have billions of more people fighting for the same resources, right? Land, water, jobs. And so I think a lot of that is the pressures that people feel. And I think this has affected a lot of political trends. And I don't blame people for making one choice or the other, but I think a lot of that is because of that pressure. And what we're seeing, one of the reasons that the world population grew so much is that people are living longer. So with access to things like clean water, vaccines, sorry to say, that also contributed, right, to people living longer. All those vaccines
have thimerosal, by the
way. And so as people are living longer, it's really important that people continue to feel like and be assets to society. And one of the ways that we do that is by sending messages to ourselves and to others that we're vital, that we are able to do things. This was a classic study done by Ellen Langer many years ago, where she took a group of 75-year-old men, put them into a cabin and isolated them. And they had everything from when they were 55, including pictures of themselves. All of the mirrors were covered up. they had like newspapers from when they were 55. And they did a few things like their grip strength. They looked at physical vitality, and they found that even after a short period of time in this living like they were 55, they had things like improved grip strength. When people viewed images of them, they looked on average about 3 years younger.
Whoa.
So
what?
So we know that how we look affects how we feel and how vital we feel. And we want people to be vital for a really, really long time.
So wait, just to double, so they looked with other people.
Yes, yeah, independent, yeah. You took like what's the age, which one's older, yeah.
So when you come back from like vacation, you're like you're well rested. Like it's like that's real.
Yep. When we talk about skin longevity and you think of, a V word, it's not vanity, it's vitality.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. It's not.
Yeah.
It's vitality. And that it's not even a word that I think a lot of people think about.
No.
Like, but it captures that vitality and signaling. And I did not know about that study. That is wild. Yeah. That is wild.
Yeah. And then maybe we'll continue to do more deep dives depending on what people are interested in. Yeah. But we can talk about so many of these social psychology studies
that we should
influence us, and when patients come to us and sometimes feel bad about wanting to
they often do.
Yeah. And we have to make sure that they don't feel bad about themselves for wanting to look their best.
A lot of people that have hair loss, I think too, are like, oh, this is not a big deal. I'm like, well, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about something that you can buy over the counter, use yourself, but you might be using it wrong. And that is the hair masks and hydrating products for the hair. So basically, when we think about, there's like three, I'm going to make it simple and lump them. So we have shampoos, conditioners, leave-in, hair masks. Okay. There's obviously more than that, like keratin treatment, stuff like that at the salon, but we'll keep it simple. And essentially what has been really trending, I think a lot of self-care things really took off during the pandemic, which is good. Yeah, people should, riot. I mean, not riot, but like riot in the streets, take care of yourself, be involved. And, but part of that is that a lot of companies came out with single-use hair masks, and like Nexus came out with a ton, other companies, and like Obagi, whatever. Basically, they all have one chemical in common, and that is some hydrolyzed protein. So if you have dry, brittle hair, which a lot of people do, and dry, brittle hair can be from things like chlorine. It can be some people just have a genetic predisposition to more brittle hair. Some people are getting like color treatments, and so that is contributing to the loss of the tensile strength of the hair. And so, or some people just want to have that nice silky smooth, we call it luster of the hair. And these hydrolyzed keratins or proteins, they come in a lot of different ways. There's like hydrolyzed, basically when you're looking in the store, you can go to Target, it does not have to be expensive. You want to look at the ingredient list, and somewhere on there, preferably not the last ingredient, like about 2/3 the way through, it should say hydrolyzed, like insert, that could be elastin. It could be collagen. It could be even if they'll say things like quinoa. Now, it's not truly quinoa. It's like an amino acid that they got out of quinoa, but hydrolyzed, and then there should be some protein after that. That's a really good hair mask. That's what you want. And they've done cool studies where they essentially will look at the hair before or after a hydrolyzed keratin or hydrolyzed protein treatment, and essentially the lining of our hair fibers is kind of shingled by the cuticle, and there can, just like after a hailstorm, there can be like holes in it, right? And the proteins are because they're hydrolyzed, they're small enough, another really important thing in terms of molecular size, to kind of coat, and they act like a little patch on the roof, and it helps the cuticle lay down, as well as attract some water. Now, this water attraction property, if you attract too much water, you get hygroscopic forces in the hair that cause it to break even easier. Oh, wow. So people, if they're using it like every day, you actually can have hair that's way more brittle than if you had never used the mask. So the ideal cadence for this is every other week, no more than 10 minutes.
Okay.
period.
This is so good. This
Yes.
is like very useful.
Yeah.
We want to bring science to have a seat at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an honor and a privilege.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
We're signing out from Stanford University, Redwood City campus.
Yeah. Discovery Hall.
Discovery Hall, we covered a lot of ground today, and this is really fun for us.
This is
for
really
me,
fun.
So thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to all who have been listening. If there is anything you want us to talk about, put it in the comments.